very much feel like when I studied for the first time the book of Mesilat Yesharim, The Path of the Righteous, when I read the introduction of the author of this book, the rabbi, Rabbi Chaim Luzzatto, is writing a book and is about to teach us about what behaviors are the right one, how people should act, how people should behave. And in his introduction, he writes, I actually don't come to give you any new information. What I'm going to write in my book, everything is known, everything you know, and my only goal when I write this book is for us to remember, is for me to remind you of those values that you already know. So that's how I feel tonight when I am about to speak about this important subject, but that so much have been said about it, since this is one challenge, one big challenge that we have been living already for more than a month. At the beginning, it was kind of crazy. We were all like in the beginning of a war, running to buy paper toilet and groceries, and we thought that the world is ending and there's not going to be food, and we just were not so aware of the challenges that were coming along inside our homes, inside the walls of our homes. But here we are for a already pretty long period of time, very much together. And the question of tonight is how do we do to make the best of it? How do we behave in ways that our relationship are not going to be hurt, and at the end of this period, Be'ezrat Hashem, we will come out stronger and feeling better among ourselves, with our families and our children. So I just wanted to make a structure to my conversation tonight. And since we are in the days in between Pesach and Shavuot, I remembered of a very beautiful Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, on the 4th chapter of Pirkei Avot. Ben Zoma Omer, this rabbi that is called the son of Zoma, he says, איזה הוא חכם הלומד מכל אדם, איזה הוא גיבור הכובש את יצרו, איזה הוא עשיר השמח בחלקו, איזה הוא מכובד המכבד את הבריות. So this חכם, this sage, is trying to define these 4 characteristics that are very, very important. So he says, איזה הוא חכם, that's how he starts. Who is wise? Who is a wise person? And he says, he who learns from every man. That has the ability to learn from everyone. So bringing it to our subject, whenever we want to speak about relationships on these times where we are in quarantine, we are staying all together at home, we don't go to our workplaces, the kids are not going to school, we are too much, all of us together with each other. If we want to give an advice, we first need to realize that the same way that this Chacham is telling, if you want to be wise, learn from every person. In this case, if you want to give an advice, if you want to find a common right behavior, you cannot ignore the fact that we are all different. There is no one size fits all. There is not one way is matching for every person. First of all, because of the way it affects each one of us. Second, because of the way each one of us is going to deal with the situation. So let's start by thinking, how is this affecting each one of us in the family? So let's start with husbands. If you think about men, for sure, many of them are very much struggling with the idea of insecurity. How is this affecting our finances? The job. Some of them lost their jobs. Some of them, their salaries came down. Some of them that perhaps their financial situation was very strong, have to deal with taking out the salaries of their workers and confronting the fact that they cannot pay the salaries of these people, which families are depending on that. How afraid is this man? How worried is he? How capable is he of suddenly working at home with the children around him, outside of his comfort zone? Perhaps he's a person that was very much used to travel, to move, to interact with different types of people. And now everything is done at home from one chair, sitting here. How is all of this affecting this man? Is he afraid? Is he overwhelmed? Is he nervous? Is he very irritated? So whenever we think about interactions, perhaps the way he's talking to his wife, the way he's treating his children, we cannot just focus on that simple sentence. Why did you scream at him? Or why didn't you speak to me in a nicer way? You have to take into consideration all what is going on in his head, in his feelings. Let's continue. Moms, what has changed in women's life? Suddenly, they feel that they have to be 24/7 serving others, taking care of husbands, taking care of children. They have to do the job of entertaining, mothering, feeding, cooking, teaching, being a teacher, being a psychologist, being a peacemaker between the fights. And the most challenging is that it happens 24/7. There is not a beginning and an end, and there is not a break, and it's all the time. So what's going on in this mother? Why is she screaming? Why is she speaking in such high tone? Why is she not more patient? Why everything triggers her? So how about thinking about what's going on in her mind? How is all of this affecting her? Why the house is not more organized? She's all the time working, and as much as she organizes, everybody's throwing the toys, and the kids are making mess all the time. Laundry never ends. She did 2 loads of laundry, and already the basket is full. She doesn't have any social life. She's not able to take a break. She's not able to go to the gym. She's not able to, this wasn't the life she signed for. She is not used to this. Children. How are our children feeling? How play dates? They don't go to see their friends. They don't go out to eat a pizza, to have an ice cream. The playground, to run, to play ball, their activities, everything that they enjoyed so much has been taken from them. And now suddenly they have to sit in front of a device, of a computer, and act as if it is school and follow the directions of the teacher, that for some children can be easy, for others it's very confusing. This is not the way they learn to study. Suddenly they need to function and to do it and participate. Some children need very much the connection, the human connection with the teacher. That is not happening. Teenagers. When our children are older, we know that teen years are those years when children have that need to disconnect from their parents, to take distance. Their main source of connection is their friends. And now they have to be with us, with parents, at home all the time. Without their friends, they feel they are choking. They need air. How are they dealing with all of this? So perhaps when my daughter doesn't answer properly and she looks with this long face and with this bad mood, perhaps it does not have to do so much with the conversation that we're having. Perhaps it has to do more with all what is going in her head, the way she's feeling. If she's in school, if she's in high school, if she's a senior, how many things have been taken from them? The graduation ceremony, the trip of the seniors year, how many worries in their heads. What's going to be next year for me? Am I going to be able to go to college? Am I going to be able to go to seminary to Israel? How is going to be my life? So this level of stress and anxiety is there with each one of us, singles. that uncertainty. What type of future are we going to have? I was planning to date. I was so much sure that I'm going to be dating this girl and going after her. Or I thought he's going to be calling me. And suddenly, nothing has happened. Everything is stuck. What happens with college? What happens with my future job? How is going to be life for me? Will I be able to make a parnasa, to be able to get married? How many doubts, how many questions for sure happen in these children's head? And each one in their level. If somebody was about to get engaged, what happens? Should I propose or I shouldn't? If somebody got engaged, what type of engagement? Without a party? Are we going to be able to have our wedding ceremony? When are we going to be able to have it? I'm just giving you a little bit of an idea of how much stress, uncertainty, how much that feeling of loss, how many things each one of us has lost in this period of time. Our lives are not anymore the same. And what do we do from this? Because I know that, especially those of us that are giving shiurim or classes, it's very much our hobby to say, oh, look at the good of it. Quarantine is making everybody more united, and everybody is learning to bond as a family. But that's not exactly and necessarily the case all the time. The challenges are there. Another thing that we have to think whenever we analyze the different characters and persons involved in this challenge is that those challenges that we have, when we confront them, we need to be clear on what we can change and what we cannot change, and we just need to practice the ability of accept. So, for example, I cannot control that there is a pandemic. I cannot control that there is still not a vaccine. I cannot control that there is not enough testing. I cannot control that even when there is testing, it doesn't give any reassurance that people that had antibodies, that they are not contagious or they are not in the risk of getting the virus again. I cannot control any of that. I cannot control when somebody gets sick. I cannot control. There is so many things that I cannot control, and I just need to learn to accept that this is our life now, that we need to do the best of it, that we need to keep social distance, that we cannot gather with our extended families. So these are the things that we need to learn to accept. So what are the things that we can control? What are the things that I can change? I can change, perhaps, the way that we deal with this overwhelming feeling of being everybody on top of each other. What happens? Everybody's at home, everybody has different obligations, and how do we do that? How do we do not to bother each other? How do we do to give space for each other needs? So very, very important is to create boundaries, to create divisions. And these boundaries have to happen in physical space, in time, and also in interaction. So physical space, of course, every family needs to check the conditions of the house. How much can I divide? We are 5 people, we are 6 people, we are 3 people. How do we create a personal space for each one of us? I know that small plastic tables are very handy at this moment, because I have read articles of people that live in the city, in apartments, how they make in one room different space, as happens in many offices, that people learn to work in different space. So take a small plastic table, if you have at home, whatever tables that you have, and you can tell your child, here, this is for you, this is your area. Here you can do your homework. Or if they have a bedroom for themselves alone, excellent, they can use their bedroom. If it's your husband, the same. Honey, I think it's better for you that you concentrate your work in this area, because here there is not noise, I'm going to be taking care that the kids don't come to this area, that you have your quiet, that you have your peace of mind to be able to do your work. The same thing for the wife of the house. You need to do your work. You need to focus on your things. Also, give yourself an area where you can have your corner without being interrupted. It's very easy to be said. If there is little kids around, then we need more the boundaries in times. I was reading how important it is, whoever is working from home, to have a beginning and an end to the time that you are working. What time do you get to your office? Let's say 8:30 a.m., 9 a.m., so at home you can do the same. When you wake up, you get dressed, you do whatever you have to do, and at certain time you start working. And it's very important that everybody else at home knows, oh, from 8 to 12, I'm working, please don't bother me. At 12, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to join you for lunch. Or at 12, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to come and do whatever it is. Or at 12, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to take over the children. It's very, very important that we divide ahead of time what is going to be my time for work, what is going to be my area where I sit. Interactions. We are all the time together. It doesn't mean that it's the best. We don't need to be all the time interacting with each other. So creating these boundaries of time. Let's do that. I don't know. Every family has to find what works for them. Are we having dinner together? Are we having lunch together? Are we having this time to watch a movie together? Husband and wife. Do we want to spend this time after we put the kids to sleep? When you define a time that you are going to be together, the rest of the time should be given for my individual needs, which is very good and very important. I know that very often, and as a woman, I hear very much women that they complain that the husbands are working and they are the whole day with the burden or with the responsibility of the children. Even if there is only one person working, it could be the husband, it could be the wife, mostly is usually the husband, it is important to understand that the other one that is taking care of the household and the children needs to know that there is a time for her. This is my time. From 6 to 7, bye-bye, you take care of the children, I'm going to be taking care of myself. This is going to be helping me. Structure is very important. It doesn't have to be exactly. For some people, it's very scary, to have to do everything exactly. But certain things are important to have. What time the children go to sleep, what time everybody wakes up, what time, as I said, I work, what time I'm not working, what time are the meals. Like if everybody knows that at 1 p.m. is time for lunch, it's good. It gives a sense of security, of stability. The same thing for dinner. And around those times, we can also get the children involved in helping. And now we're going to speak about that. Now, collaboration. How do we do for people in the house to cooperate, to collaborate with the household? That becomes really heavy because when we are all in the house, things get dirty more often. Everybody is eating more often. There is not a break. Houses used to be for many hours empty of children, empty of activity, and people would come back from work and from school in the evening, and that's when the movement begins in the house. Now we are all inside at all time. So how do we do people to collaborate? And here it's very important that we understand that we cannot really change 100% what was happening until now in our families. I know that in many families, in other countries, in Israel, in places where there is no help, children have been raised and have been taught from very young age to be part of the chores. They help. They can help fold the laundry. They can help cooking. They can help setting up the table, baking, doing. So for families that this has been the norm, it is very easy to just make certain adjustments. Listen, now I need from you to do ABC more. Now, can you please take care not only of your laundry, but help me with your siblings' laundry? It's easy to adjust. But what happens in a house where people were used to have outside help and that person did everything for everybody. So what happens now if that person is not coming home anymore because of social distance? I know in some houses that it still happens, but if I want people to help, children to help more, how do I change now? How do I make them do whatever they were not used to? So for some families it can be easy, it can become an easy change because the children are young, but for others it can be very, very difficult, especially with teenagers. How do you make a teenager that never in his life, her life, did anything, suddenly be part of the family and we want them to do it with a smile and happy? How do you do that a man in the house, especially if we live in a society where there is still this idea of women are in charge of the house and men are in charge of the outside. I'm not saying this is the right way. I'm not judging also. I'm just saying for some families, these are the paradigms. These are the ways that they live their lives. How do you change that overnight? I think it's impossible, and we need to be realistic. What can I expect to change? And I remembered when years ago we moved from South America to Israel. We had 5 children. I was pregnant with my 6th one, with Shmuel, and the change was really, really difficult. We came from having help at home, full-time help, to Israel, new country, new life, no help, a lot of children, and it was extremely overwhelmed. I felt I was getting crazy. Everything was in my shoulders, very little kids, and I remember having a conversation with a very famous psychologist, Miriam Adahan, and she gave me a very good advice. She told me, listen, because I was trying really to make everybody change, it wasn't happening. She says, how about you try this? And I want to share this with you because even now I think it's helping me. I'm still using that good advice. And this is for families where there is the habit of helping does not exist from before. That would be ideal that everybody helps at all time. But if it doesn't exist, she gave me this advice. How about instead of being the whole day fighting and nagging and having this feeling of resentment and having this stress, how about at the end of the day, after dinner, you make it as a game? She says, buy one of these clocks, sun clock, like that they have for 5 minutes, 6 minutes. You tell everybody, we're going to turn it around, and during these minutes, everybody's helping. And you divide the jobs and whatever everybody has to do. So everybody, you can all adjust it to the way you like it. But what I'm doing now in our house, and I really remember this lady and I bless her because it's working amazingly well. I decided I'm not going to be asking the whole day. At the end of the day, I sat with myself, I planned what are the areas that are really important to me. And I divided it among us, those that live here in the house. And it helps because everybody knows what they have to do. They do it in their own time at the end of the day. And when I wake up in the morning, I don't find everything a chaos because also I go to sleep before they go to sleep, whatever. So one helps before dinner, another helps after dinner. But everybody knows that they have one function in their day and they are doing that. So that's as an example. Perhaps it can help. What for sure helps is that if you make some rules, the rules are going to minimize the permanent tension. For example, a silly rule, I don't know if it's still something that you can do during this day. For example, no eating in the bedrooms. So no eating in the bedrooms is going to minimize the food that is left there, the plates that are left there, whatever. Or I don't know, each family should think about the rules that will help them. And if you install them, you're going to minimize the repeating yourself every time over certain rules that you want to happen. Okay, so this is the first one. איזהו חכם הלומד מכל אדם. Learn that we are different. Learn that we confront things in a different way. When you are about to ask or to criticize, try to empathize with the person. Try to think what they're going through. Try to understand that one way of dealing with things cannot work for everybody. Okay? The second idea of the Mishnah that this Rabbi Ben Zoma was saying is who is considered a powerful person. Ezehu Gibor, he who can control his impulses. So the Mishnah is saying, okay, if I want to define which person is a Gibor, is really a very powerful person, he gives a definition, the one that can control his impulses. And this brings me to the second part that I want to give you as an advice. There is one thing that for sure we can control. And there is one thing that for sure I can change. And the only thing that I can control, I can change, is my own behavior. The way I act. The way I act and the way I react to others. Because even when we are right, even when the other one is not being fair, even when the other one is not doing the right thing, as much as I want, it's not in my power to change that person. As close as it is to me. What is it in my power is to change myself, is to work on myself, and through my example, for sure, others are going to learn. So if we spoke about structure, and if we speak about self-discipline, how important it is that I start with myself, with defining what time I go to sleep, how many hours I need of sleep, what time I wake up. Personally, I can share with you at the beginning of this time, it was like a Laliland party. I woke up so late. And then I realized, no, I don't want to burn my days like that. I put my alarm clock. I know what time I want to wake up. I know what time I want to start my day. I want my goals for the day. So when I wake up, I have to get rest. I make a point to leave my bedroom organized, to have my bed done. Why? Because I know that my kids are going to pass through. I am not going to tell them what to do with their beds, but they have to know that I made my bed every day. I remember once I heard a class of a general giving us an advice, start your day always making your bed. Why? Because it's like defining, I'm going to start with order. I'm going to start with structure. It's going to help me. Every time I come to my room, I see order. I also create hamavdil ben laila leyom. I create a differentiation between the night and the day. The day is not the day to continue in bed. The day is a day for activity, for action, for productivity. So that's the first thing. It's very important, I think, to start with a schedule. I do my tefillah. I will have my coffee, my breakfast, and then personally, I don't have little kids with me at this moment, but it's so important that when your children have to wake up to start their day, a mom, a dad, parents that are already standing and with a smile and ready to start the day are welcoming them. It's not all of us getting up together, oh, I'm tired. No, give yourself those minutes for yourself to start your day with clarity, and then you are welcoming your children. It's like the owner of a company that he wants to be there in order to be on top of what is done in his company. The same thing we do with our children. So start with that. Self-discipline. Decide your own routine. Decide when do you exercise. The real test of self-discipline is when nobody's on top of us. Now we are our own boss, our own masters. And of course, each one of us has a different type of challenge. For people that are more used to structure, it's going to be easier for them. For people that need to really start to finding order in their lives, it's going to be more difficult. Some of us need discipline to cook, to have meals ready for our family on time. Not whatever, and open the refrigerator or eat whatever you want. Like, we kind of create the environment around us. We create order, we create discipline. There are things that happen at certain times, and I'm there behind them to make that day happen. Okay, so I said I can control how I act, I can control how I respond to other people's behavior. So if I'm criticized, if I'm spoken in a bad tone of voice, I have to decide what is the way I want to control. Something very important is to be able to separate the projects that I want from my family member from my relationship. Let's say I want my daughter to set the table and she doesn't set the table, so the project wasn't done, but it shouldn't affect my relationship. It's kind of tricky because much of the stress and of the tension that happens in the house is because of lack of cooperation. But we need to be able to be above that and beyond that, because we're speaking about actions. By the way, the main reason for looking for the cooperation of our children is also to teach them kindness, to teach them that their mother is not their servant. She's not here to be serving everybody in the home 24/7. And it starts by you demanding for that sensitivity. At the same time, when they do it, I will not only thank for taking the plates to the sink, or for washing the dishes, or for organizing the room, or for making a salad. I will thank them for their kindness, for their sensitivity. Wow, it means so much to me. Thank you so much. It's so beautiful that you are so thoughtful. It makes me feel so good that you care about me. Wow, I am, tonight I'm not so tired because you were helping around. You make it personal. From one side, you don't want to make it personal when they don't do it. You don't want to keep that resentment. But when they do it, you want to keep that gratitude for them being kind to you. So this is the way that I become a powerful person, by mastering my behavior, the way I act, trying not to be resentful, not to be criticizing all the time, not to be looking at the negative, try to look into the positive things. And now, how do we do that? Of course, we have to go to the next step. What do I do in order to keep myself most of the time happy, able to smile, able to enjoy, and not resentful, and only negative things come out of me, and negativity and criticism? How do I do that? So I go to the next one that the rabbi says, Reben Zoma says, Ezehu Ashir Hasameach Bechelko. Who is rich, who is wealthy? The one that is happy with what he has. Of course, the Mishnah is speaking about wealth, but in our case, for our conversation, I want to speak about how to keep myself content, happy, positive, even that is so challenging, even that we are in these difficult quarantine times. So one thing that is not going to be very helpful is that thanks to technology and thanks to our ability to connect to others, I get to know pretty much about what happens in other people's lives. Like my friend prepared a beautiful dinner and she's posting it in Instagram. And I see that. Her husband is cleaning the floors, and I see that in Facebook. So how do I do? I have to understand that every family has their different strengths, their different dynamics. Also, what you see is not everything that is in there. Like we know very well, like for example, I can be giving this class in Zoom, and you're going to see a very small corner of my house, and I could have a mess around me, and I can be speaking about peace and have everybody fighting on the other room. You don't see everything that happens. Same thing with what we know about our friends. Yes, she's showing a beautiful meal that she made tonight, but perhaps there were many sacrifices in the way because she fought with her husband and with the children. Doesn't necessarily has to be like that, but we don't know. It's not healthy to try to make my life as other people's lives. Also, her talent is decorating the dishes. My talent is not decorating my dish, but my food is very yummy. Or her husband is always helping around and my husband is not. But my husband sits with my children to do their homework and her husband doesn't do that. I'm just throwing examples. Your friend's wife is always having the house so neat and organized and clean, and you wonder why your wife cannot control a simple organization of the house, but you don't know that that woman is a control freak and is screaming at everybody and is making everybody's life impossible, and your wife is calm and she sits with the children and she's telling them stories at night and everything is peaceful in your house. So we cannot compare. So the first must to keep yourself happy is perhaps try to look inside your home, inside your marriage, inside your family, inside yourself. What works for me? Who am I? What works for my family? What are we capable of doing? What are our weaknesses? What are our strengths? That's the first thing that I want to advise whenever we speak about being happy. Being rich is when I'm happy with what I have. I don't have to compare myself with Mr. and Mrs. Perfect because for sure they're not so perfect. Good is good enough. And besides that, things don't have to be perfect. Okay, now, another thing, what helps you to stay positive? This is very, very, very important. I mentioned at the beginning, dividing the time, having differentiation between the time that is for work, the time that is for cooking, the time that is for leisure, for reading, for whatever. And now I'm going to speak mainly to women, okay? Because women, since most of the times, and I say most of the time because in some households the woman has to be working at the same level full time, and there they really need to work very hard, husband and wife, to find a balance between the time that they devote to their job and the time that they devote for themselves. So if the woman is in charge of the children most of the time, and there are little kids in the house, there is a lot to do with school, with the Zoom, and cooking and cleaning, it's a must that you get time for yourself alone. Not at home next to the children, next to your husband. Alone. And here I'm speaking to the husbands. Give that gift to your wives. Let's say you're working, so plan in advance. It doesn't have to be on the spot. Like if you come now to your husband, now I need to leave, and he's in the middle of a transaction or whatever, he cannot leave his job in the middle. But everything is about planning. Honey, when can I take off? I need to have a walk. I need to speak with a friend. I want to listen to this class and I really want to relax by myself. Okay, count on me from 5 to 6, from 4 to whatever. Have this interaction, this communication, and not on the spot fighting. You're not considerate of my feelings. No. Plan it in advance. Explain yourself. Communicate your needs. It's very, very, very important. You can even go in your car. If your house is small and your little kids are not going to let you alone, take the car and drive and stop the car in front of a nice view, I don't know, in front of the sea, take a coffee, drink the coffee, Zoom with a friend, stop your car in front of your friend's house and have a conversation. But distend your mind, like just take a time where you are not serving the world, you are for yourself. You are refilling the batteries in order to be able to continue. And of course, it applies also to husbands. If they are working for their job all the time, they also need that break. It cannot be that he's working for his job and in the minute he finishes his full time required to be for the children, he needs also the time for himself. It's very, very important that we respect this. I asked my son, what advice would you give me for peace at home. He says something very good is having fun board games. Board games are very nice. It has the family together. We can just play, laugh, and it allows us also to appreciate that we are together. Humor, laugh, a good laugh kind of let us feel normal again. When we're laughing, we kind of forget of all the challenges that we are doing. My daughter told me that she and her husband, for example, met with their friends for a dinner. They had a date of dinner, two couples together through Zoom. There are so many things that we have to be creative to allow ourselves to make to bring our level of happiness higher, to be more positive. I cannot just tell myself be positive, be positive, be positive. No, I need to feel it. I need to feel some kind of joy by playing, by laughing. I was listening to this podcast. I don't even remember from whom it was. It was a while ago. And they were asking the host, what do you recommend for people that are alone? Because we're speaking so much about families being one on top of each other. What do you recommend for people that are alone? And she says, you know what? Sometimes people that are alone are not lonely. And people that are not alone, they feel lonely. So because you can be next to another person, but that emotionally is not so connected. So what gives us the joy, the feelings of joy, is the connection with the other. So try to find, perhaps at home, because that you are both very busy, doesn't happen, and you need to take that time off. Try to connecting with a friend, with that person that is always there for you, with your mom, with your sister, with your buddy for soccer, whatever. That person that you can share these things that only the two of you can do it together. That's very good. That's very important to refill that positive energy, and that will allow you to be able to see things in a positive way. Of course, what everybody knows is exercise gratitude, how important it is to be grateful for the things that we have. They say that they could see in MRIs that whenever I'm very stressed and anxious, there are certain areas of my brain that get activated. And whenever I'm grateful, but really grateful, not just saying thank you, but really feeling that feeling of, wow, Baruch Hashem, I have this, I have that, other areas of the brain get activated. Now, if that feeling of gratitude is strong, it can take over. The activation in the anxiety areas gets minimized, and my brain gets more active with positive feelings. So that's very, very, very important. And of course, it's a beautiful exercise to just sit and either journal and write it down, or think to yourself, even in the moments that you feel overwhelmed, just sit to meditate, take deep breaths, just count your breathing as the air comes in and out, and try to think about the good things in your life. Now, this exercise is tricky. Why? Because sometimes, and here again, women tend to be more involved in this than men. Why? Because we are experts in feeling guilty. So sometimes we feel guilty, like, wow, Hashem gave me so much. We are all healthy. How can I be resentful that nobody's helping me around here? How can I be tired of working the whole day? Yes, you can be resentful. You can be tired. It's natural. It's normal. We are human. But those feelings of guilt sometimes are natural. But at the same time, reminding yourself the things that are so good in your life will minimize those feelings of resentment. So again, who is happy? The one that, who is rich? The one that is happy with what he has. And the last one that the Mishnah is telling us, who is honorable or who is a respected person is the one that is able to respect the others. So of course, it's all about respect. Whenever we live very high levels of stress and anxiety, it can blurry our process of thought. We can use the wrong words, we can speak the wrong way. How important it is to make a decision of we are going to respect each other no matter what. In our home, this should be the main rule. We respect each other. By the way, with our teenage children, whenever we put rules, we have to know that with them you cannot put too many rules. But one of the rules that I would never let go, and I would demand it, is respectful speech. Like they answer back, they don't speak nicely to me, I can't tell them. I speak. Sorry, I'm going to mute this. In our home, this is the main rule. We respect each other. By the way, what is happening here? Whenever we put rules, we have... Okay. Sorry. If somebody is being disrespectful, one of my kids, I can tell him, listen, I always treat you with respect. I want you to speak with me with respect as well. Respectful language is something that shouldn't be a question. And we don't even need to tell our children. If we practice it ourselves, among ourselves, husband and wife, we always speak with respect, with a low tone of voice, no screaming, not using bad words. Really, really understanding that as much as I'm upset and I'm angry, I cannot allow myself to lose it. Why? Because there is so much at risk. They're watching me. They're watching me. I am, imagine I'm now with the microphone, or I'm now in front of all of you. I have to be careful. I have people watching what I'm saying. This has to be my feeling. Even when I'm at home, the most important people in my life are watching, is our children. Now, if we are having a disagreement, husband and wife, so important that we develop this attitude or this habit of postponing our discussion for when the children are not around. We have to show respect in front of our children. Now, what does it involve to be respectful? Not putting down with the names, not putting down each other. Respect the personality of the other, which means accept them. The fact that you don't like, I don't know, that he likes classic music doesn't mean that he cannot listen to that music. That's his taste. If she doesn't like dairy, you cannot force her to eat dairy. I don't know. I'm saying the importance of understanding that we are not the same. Each one has different tastes, different way of living their lives. Respect their limitations. Respect their time. Don't come and interrupt every moment. He's working. She's busy. She's listening to a class. Respect her. Respect their privacy. Respect the way that they have to process stress. So he gets very anxious. He's very worried. He cannot sleep at night. Don't minimize that. It's his way of processing stress, even that you are more relaxed. Respect their needs. That's what, when you respect the other in these ways, you will get it back for yourself. כמים הפנים לפנים, כך לב האדם לאדם. The same way the face, when looks into the water in a lake, in a river, you can see your own face. That's how our behavior gets reflected in the other person. The way I behave is going to be the way the other person behave. And of course, get used to apologize whenever we don't act the right way. I see the time, it's 10 to 9, and I don't know if Angela, do you have a way to speak here or not? I think you wanted us to relate to questions, if there are questions. Angela, I am unmuting you. And of course, get used wants to apologize whenever we don't act the right way. Do we have? Do we have any questions, or I continue? Okay, so I'm going to finalize because in the chat here, excited, no, I don't see any questions. Anyways, I want to finalize because when I speak about respect, I also want to remind ourselves that we need to have realistic expectations.
Wait, one second.
Yes, Angela? Do we have any questions, or I continue?
Yes, if everybody has a question, you can write it down, and Ms. Bitton.
Because
Sorry, Ms. Bitton, do you hear me?
Of course, I do hear you, yes. I don't see any questions. Anyways, I want to finalize because when I speak about respect, I hear you, but I don't see questions. Okay, I'm going to end, okay? I'm going to end. I want to read for you a beautiful, beautiful idea that I saw in one of the articles that Sarah Hannah Radcliffe wrote. And she says like this: family relationships are complex. What we see in movies, people smiling at all times, it's not reality.
Sorry, do you hear me?
Okay? So real life families have good moments and bad ones, easy relationships and hard ones. We usually manage family life despite the complexities, partly because we are not together all the time, which means we have challenges. But what allows us to overcome the challenges, what allows us to have this ability to live together and manage family life, is the fact that we are not together all the time. So there is one person that writes here: my husband and I get along fine when? As long as we don't see each other too much. Whenever we are together, we manage to get into some sort of dispute. We love each other, but don't get along that well. So now that we are spending all this time together, I have to admit it's hard. This is not the person I want to be all day. And this is not negative. This is not in a bad way. This is natural. Sometimes there are tensions, and it's normal. We are two different people. But usually our life together is when somebody is in the, you go to work, you meet each other in the evenings. Perhaps you can have some discussions, but that's it. That's it. When spouses go about their normal lives, leaving the house each day to go somewhere and do something, they can experience acceptance and positive regard from the world at large. Also, you go to work, you get people appreciating you, praising you. You have a break. This gives them a nice break from the tensions they might experience with loved ones. Why didn't you throw the garbage? Why you don't help me? People who see them up close and regularly enough to detect their quirks and flaws. Husband and wives, parents and children, siblings, and any who live with each other often get on each other's nerves. And it's normal. We don't always speak so nicely to each other. So we need to recognize that being together at all times can be challenging. That's why it's so important also to create the distance. Like we are together, but how about not seeing each other all the time? Let's take a break. Like let's say I realized we're discussing too much, so I'm going to perhaps create that distance. And we saw each other for breakfast. Have a great day. See you tonight when you come back. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate very much you coming to listen. I'm sure you all know everything I said. It's very known, and we are going through this challenge that Be'ezrat Hashem, since in our community the value of family, it's so important. We care so much about our children and the education that we give them, that Bezrat Hashem, we're going to do the best. And when all of this is over, we will look back and be able to appreciate the good things that came from it. Thank you so much. Let me check again if I have any question. My baby still wakes up several times at night. We are not able to wake up very early with my 5-year-old, so I let him watch TV until I get up. Is that okay? I appreciate very much this question because I don't think there is okay or not okay. One advice could be you can take turns. One day you sleep, another day your husband sleeps. But I know I was speaking with one of my married children, and they were telling me about their specific circumstances and the child watching more TV than usual. Well, okay, in that case, the husband is a doctor, my daughter is being very often alone by herself with the child. So it's something necessary. I don't think anything will happen when all of this is over. Bezrat Hashem, you will get back to put the right boundaries. But if you can minimize it, better. Okay, any other question? What if the husband isn't as willing to cooperate and follow the advice? I don't think I gave many advices here for cooperation. I think I mostly spoke about you cooperating. I know a friend of mine that she told me that her husband never helps, but she made a deal with him. Okay, you know what? You don't help, but you take care that the children help. And that's what he does. And is this right or is this wrong? I don't know. But at least he's taking care that she gets the help. I'm sure that whenever this is over, he will also take care that she gets help from outside. It's very personal. For every family, something different work, and you have to decide what is worth extra attention, and not just if it's worth it to be in tension. Are you going to be able to change things? And if you are not, at least try to find the way that that works for you. Okay. I don't see any more questions. I know I got more questions in my private chat, and I apologize I did not relate to those questions because some of them spoke about problems that exist all the time. One more thing that I want to add is that I don't think that now is the time to solve problems. I don't think that now is the time to change dynamics in the couple, to define the roles of how much everyone is doing inside and outside. I don't think this is the time to speak about budget and finances. I think it's not the time to change. I think this is the time to survive. We are in survival mode. Thank you very much. Have a good night to all of you. And I'm going to unmute you. Thank you so much. I don't see any more questions. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you so much, Coty.
You are very welcome.
This
Thank
class
you.
was really amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was amazing. As usual, amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so
I
much.
really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mrs. Bitton. Loved it, as always.
Thank you.
for
It's
all
good to
your-
have you all here. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.